Well, another edition of Steam Next Fest has come and gone, and I am once again talking about all the demos I played after the fact. One day I might be able to get a Next Fest video out while the event is actually going on, but today is not that day. I did manage to get through the summer 2025 edition of Next Fest without running into too much burnout this time, so that's something. This was in large part due to the fact that I actually grouped the demos I wanted to play into categories so I could gauge what I wanted to check out based on my mood at any given time. I figured I'd keep those categories intact for this video so that you too might have a better idea of what I checked out. Timestamps for all the demos I played will be in the description, and that's where I'll let you know if any of the demos are still available on Steam as of when this video is posted. So without further ado, let's check out all the demos I played during the summer 2025 edition of Steam Next Fest. The largest category of demos I played this time around is what I've been referring to as Unpacking-Likes. Games that follow in the footsteps of Unpacking, a narrative puzzle game about unpacking and arranging all your belongings in a new space after a move. All of these demos had the same kind of chill, cozy vibes, and all involved decorating some sort of space. Some had story elements, others were more puzzle-like, and a few were much more design-based, but they all gave me the same feelings that Unpacking did. Cozy Organizer is a sandbox organizing game with a very cute art style and chill background music. It's about organizing all sorts of different things in different places, from a full kitchen to bento box lunches to coin and sticker collection. I really liked the variety of different organizing styles that were featured, and the demo showed off a larger range of game mechanics than I'd expected. Sure, there was your standard put stuff in this room however you'd like type of mechanic, but there were also levels that were significantly more puzzle-based, including one where you had to reassemble a very torn-up photograph, which I really enjoyed. I did, however, run into some issues. The demo opened with a screen stating that there was no wrong place to put things, implying that the game had free object placement. However, this was not entirely true. Sometimes the game would allow me to place down an object, then the object would start flashing at me because it was apparently in the wrong place. Other times, the game just wouldn't allow me to place an item in a space at all, choosing instead to shoot it back into my inventory. Items also spawned into the game in waves, which was a little frustrating. I'd placed all my starting items down in a way that I felt was satisfying and organized, but then 10 more items would spawn, and suddenly these new things had nowhere to go without either tearing everything apart or just shoving them in wherever they would fit. I did actually enjoy my experience with Cozy Organizer overall, and I hope the issues I mentioned will be fixed in the full release. The game is set to release in Q3 of 2025. Unbox The Room is described as a relaxing simulator where you play as an interior designer helping clients to move into their new homes. It was definitely a relaxed game, and it felt very Unpacking-like right down to the art style. However, there were also some distinct differences. The biggest one being that you could place down and arrange the furniture itself rather than just the smaller items like clothes and toiletries. There also didn't seem to be a single overarching story to the game, but rather separate smaller stories accompanying each unboxing job, complete with requests from customers about where they wanted items placed and how they wanted rooms set up. So while the influence of Unpacking is definitely present, the devs have clearly tried to make it their own. Unbox The Room is currently planned to release sometime in 2025. My Tiny Room is another decorating game shown from an isometric perspective. I think I'm using that term right. That's the viewpoint where you can only see two walls at a time. And it is again very chill. I thought the art style was interesting. It's sort of claymation-like, and I liked that there were a couple of different styles of rooms and furniture to play with. There was a level with a modern kitchen, one with a child or teenager's room, one with almost medieval furniture, and even an outdoor level where you design a front yard. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to it beyond that. Outside of placing larger furniture and decorations, you can only place smaller items on surfaces rather than in cupboards or drawers, and I don't think there was a way to change the wallpaper or flooring. Eventually, I had a level glitch out on me. It said the level was 97% completed, but it was giving me no other items to place down. That said, My Tiny Room wasn't a terrible experience by any means, but it seems like it could use some more time in the oven. The game does not currently have a release date, so hopefully the devs can cook some more while we wait. My Cozy Room, this is a different game from the last one, I swear, was my third isometric / two walls perspective game in a row, and I have to admit I was getting a little tired of that perspective by this point. The game didn't have a tutorial, which I always find an odd choice for a demo, but the on-screen cues were mostly straightforward. I found the demo to be quite cute, but my playtime was short, mainly due to another strange choice. There was an impressively large number of colors and patterns available, but only a very limited number of items to use them on. I fully understand limiting the amount of content in a demo, but in this one, entire categories of furniture were cut off. You couldn't use any office furniture, for example, which made filling out a room difficult because you were also limited by how many styles of bedroom or living room furniture there were, leading to, in my opinion, a very quick and boring play session. I think I was mostly frustrated with the demo because My Cozy Room looks like it can, and hopefully will, be so much more. The number of palettes available was crazy, and it seems like there's going to be a ton of furniture categories and styles to choose from. It's just strange that we weren't given more of a chance to play play with them in the demo in order to experience more of what the full game will offer. My cozy room currently has no release date listed. Organized Inside was probably my favorite unpacking like out of all of them, in large part because you're actually packing rather than unpacking. Or if you're not doing that, you're pulling everything out of a space to fix it up and put it back in its proper place. The demo only had 2 levels, one to pack a car and one to clean up and organize a kitchen. Both levels allowed you to put small things inside bigger things, like clothing into a suitcase or knives into a knife block, which was very satisfying, and the kitchen level included washing the dishes, which, despite having to be done one dish at a time, was also incredibly satisfying. I had a great time figuring out how to get everything organized and aesthetically pleasing, and I was so disappointed when the demo ended. It was too short. Organized Inside currently has no release date listed, but I'm very much looking forward to playing it when it does. Discounty is a game where you run your own discount supermarket, taking over from your aunt, who seems, a little shady, if we're being honest. It definitely seems like there might be a darker side to this game than I expected. I saw so many of my fellow cozy gamers playing this prior to Next Fest that I was convinced it was going to be sort of your run-of-the-mill shop simulator that was obviously good or people wouldn't be raving about it, and hopefully had its own twist. And it definitely has more than one twist in store from the looks of it. Along with hints at something darker, it also gives you tasks and a story outside of the day-to-day running of the shop, which I always appreciate. The game uses pixel art, and you can tell that a lot of care has gone into designing the characters in the world, making everything uniquely its own rather than using, I guess what you would call, a more standard style of pixel art. The dialogue and even some of the tasks also carry a good sense of humor with them, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Discounty is set to release on August 21st, 2025, and I am excited to check it out. Lemonade Apocalypse, The Great Filter, is an incremental clicker, which, as a type of game I don't think I've ever played before. You play as a kid who decides to open a lemonade stand so he can afford a new bike. It starts out slow, making a simple lemonade recipe one cup at a time, and eventually you unlock ways to automate the process, as well as ways to make you more money, including, refining the sugar in your drinks to make them more addictive. While your initial goal is to buy a new bike, the next goal is to buy a factory in order to further increase production, and it seems like the final goal may be to actually cause an apocalypse and end the world. The description on Steam even says, lead the world to apocalypse with lemonades, and prestige when you end the world to explore the different endings and gameplay options. I'm still not entirely sure what prestige is, other than it has something to do with restarting the game with all of your previous skills intact. Look, I play cozy games, okay? I only understand so much gamer talk. Anyways, I really enjoyed my time with this demo. The gameplay was pretty straightforward, and once the automation starts, you don't play so much as you just sit there and enjoy the dopamine rush known as number go up. But even then, the game still managed to get stupidly addictive stupidly fast. Lemonade Apocalypse, The Great Filter currently has no release date planned, but the devs do have a game just called Lemonade Apocalypse, which I assume is a prequel. Hold on, I just realized that one's free. Be right back. Keep Me Gifted is a game where you run your own gift shop. It puts a fun spin on running a shop in that the customers bring their items to the counter and tell you how they want them packaged. They tell you what color wrapping paper they want, if they want bows or stickers on the package, and what to write on the gift tag. The better you remember how they want their gift wrapped, the better a review you'll get on the game's version of Yelp, which will help keep your store in good standing. The demo did have a few frustrating limitations. Customers would ask for wrapping options that weren't available, which would then lower my store's rating. I could only order up to 9 items per day, even though the game said I was supposed to have 10 slots in my inventory, and customers would keep coming into the store after I was sold out with no way to restock because deliveries were only made at the start of each day. The demo was enjoyable despite these roadblocks though, and I can see how a fuller gameplay loop will make things more fun. I also found the characters and their dialogue highly amusing with a quirky art style that fit the vibe of the game very well. Keep Me Gifted released on June 18th, 2025. Ship Inc. is a different type of packaging job simulator in that you're working in the back end of the industry this time, packing orders in a warehouse. It's actually made by the same company that made Cozy Organizer, and it's interesting to see how they have similar cozy vibes while being clearly different games. In Ship Inc. you both receive boxes of random items and also send out boxes of random items. It started out that you'd receive a box from, say, a t-shirt, a soccer ball, and a hard hat in it, and then lo and behold, you'd receive an order for exactly those 3 items, which you'd then pack up into a new box and send out. However, as the game progressed, you might get in 2 or 3 boxes containing a total of 10 to 12 random items, and then receive orders for only 7 or 8 of those 10 to 12, meaning you had to stay organized when it came to your inventory. There were also things to do outside of the warehouse after the workday ended. You could go to various stores to top up and upgrade your packing supplies. There seemed to be an area with a couple of minigames, and there was a bank that you could deposit excess funds into in order to earn interest. When you go to your home at the end of the day, you would pay any bills you might have and then go to sleep. It seemed like the end goal was to save enough money to buy a house, while also still having enough money for your business and your personal life. So there's definitely a money management element to it as well. I enjoyed the demo overall. The core gameplay loop was pretty satisfying, and the tutorials for inside the warehouse were clear. Unfortunately, outside the warehouse was a different matter. There wasn't much explanation of what the different stores were for, what exactly the upgrades got you, or how many new items you'd get in a stock top-up. And initially I couldn't even figure out how to go home. Also, as someone who can't even draw a straight line with a ruler, taping a box closed correctly with a mouse was rough. Chip Ink is set to release on June 23rd, 2025. This is another category I've made up, Trash Goblin-Likes, for games that follow in the footsteps of Trash Goblin, a shopkeeping game where you clean up and restore old trinkets and other discoveries and sell them to the public. For me, a Trash Goblin-like doesn't need to have the shopkeeping element to them, so much as it needs to have the uncover and restore elements like the following games do. Undusted, Letters from the Past, is one of those games with no shop aspect to it, but it seems like it's going to have a lot of story instead. Your character enters an empty house and begins to clean and fix up the items inside, which trigger old memories. And those old memories look like they're going to be heartbreaking. I really enjoyed this one. I found the cleaning mechanics to be very satisfying. The game gives you different tools for different types of work, which adds some nice variety to the gameplay. And despite the apparent sadness in the story, I'm now invested in learning how it will unfold. Sadly, Undusted Letters from the Past currently has no release date listed, but I hope we get to learn how the story ends soon. Gemporium is an adorable little game where you play as a little mole, I think, running a gem shop. You have direct access to the mine from your shop, which is also your home, very convenient, and you mine, clean up, and sell all of the gems yourself. The customers have different likes and dislikes, and you have to do your best to sell them what they're looking for. They can also haggle with you, giving you a boost in price if you win and a drop in price if you lose. There were definitely some stressors in the early game. You run the risk of cracking your gems while you're mining and cleaning them, and lower levels of the mines run the risk of collapse if you mine too close to the support beams. You also only have limited time to mine each day, which means you only have limited products to sell. However, you eventually start to unlock upgrades allowing you to speed up production with less errors, at which point the gameplay loop becomes much more relaxing. I really enjoyed this demo, and I was sad when it was over. Thankfully, Gemporium is set to release in August of 2025. Pieces of the Past was the last of the Trash Goblin-likes that I played, but unfortunately it was kinda disappointing. The concept for the game is both interesting and confusing, as you seem to be working at an antique or pawn shop, cleaning and repairing items, but all of the items you restore seem to belong to your family rather than customers. Completing each job unlocks memories in the same way that Undusted did, but in Pieces of the Past, like I said, you're very clearly at some sort of a store rather than a family home. On top of that, instructions on how to play weren't given outside of find and restore X number of items around the shop. And while some of the jobs were fairly straightforward to complete, others required you to take the items completely apart in order to fix them, which is rough if you haven't ever taken apart something like, say, a telescope before. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing with that one. So yeah, Pieces of the Past was a rough one for me. It currently has no release date listed, so hopefully it'll get some more time in the oven. Ritual of Raven is a witchy farming sim that I've been waiting to try out for a while now. It's made by the same devs that made Sticky Business, which I love, so I fully expected to love this game too. And while I didn't immediately love it, I can definitely see it as a game that grows on me. First off, I think I came into this game with very different expectations from what I thought it was versus what it actually is. I was mostly expecting it to be a relatively standard farm sim with some magic elements, sort of like Fields of Mystria, and I had completely forgotten that there was a card-based mechanic to the game. Initially, I thought it was going to be like a deck builder slash battler, but in fact, Ritual of Raven uses tarot cards, but they don't work like tarot cards. Or at least I don't think they do as far as my extremely limited understanding of tarot cards goes. They're actually used as part of a programming mechanic that lets you automate your farming, and I assume you'll probably be able to automate other tasks as well. At first, that side of the game was a lot to take in as someone with very minimal programming knowledge. I was overwhelmed initially, but eventually I got more comfortable with it, and I strongly suspect that the gameplay loop will become more relaxing with more practice. Overall, I really enjoyed the demo. The story is intriguing, the dialogue is witty, the characters are charming and adorable, and oh my god, I love Charlie so much, he's so cute! I also love that I could see and hear tiny touches in the artwork and the music that were reminiscent of the art and music in Sticky Business. Ritual of Raven is set to release on August 7th, 2025, and I can't wait. Possessions is an interesting take on a puzzle game, as instead of moving objects around in an environment to solve the puzzles, you manipulate the environment itself, lining up static objects to put them in their correct spots. It started out fairly easy, but I think the first time I got stumped was on like the second puzzle. It's definitely a game that forces you to shift both how you see the environment in front of you and how you think about the potential solutions to the questions in front of you. I really enjoyed that despite the environment being fairly minimalist and featuring low poly graphics, the puzzles managed to tell a detailed and possibly somewhat dark story just in the demo alone. I'm both curious and hopeful that the story becomes happier in the end. Possessions is currently planned to release in Q3 of 2025. Gecko Gods is a demo I was very curious to try out, as the trailer reminded me very strongly of Europa, an open-world puzzle adventure game that I was lucky enough to play through last year, and I definitely felt some similarities when playing the demo, from the art style and the general chill vibes, to the design of a few of the little sentry things that guard some of the areas. That said, Gecko Gods is clearly its own thing. For starters, you play as a cute little gecko who makes these adorable little meeps as its cry, but there's also significantly less parkour and platforming than in Europa, in large part because you're playing as a gecko so you can just climb everything. There's far less jumping needed, which was great for me because I suck at platforming. I really enjoyed that there was a ton of world to explore even in the demo, and that every time I thought I'd reached the end of an area, I realized I could literally climb even higher to find more ground to adventure across. The game includes some stories, some puzzles, and at least 3 different types of collectibles, including bugs that you can eat. The demo for Gecko Gods was a delightful way to spend an hour or two, and I'm very excited to see what the full game has in store. It is currently planned to release in Q4 of 2025. Twinkleby is described as a cozy decoration game where you map out an archipelago of floating islands and build dioramas for a society of spacefaring neighbors. It's a cute little game with a claymation art style, and you build cute little houses and the landscapes around them. The controls were straightforward, with the tutorial popping up here and there as you unlock new items or features, both of which were fairly easy and intuitive to do. The demo definitely had some limitations. For starters, the starting island was too small, at least for my brain. I didn't even realize that I had 2 houses in my inventory until the end of my time with the demo, because after I placed the first house down, it didn't seem like there was enough room for anything else beyond outdoor decoration. I did manage to squeeze a second home in when I realized I had it, but it just barely fit. And then, as cute as the houses and the items were, I found the actual process of decorating to be kinda clunky, mainly because you could only decorate from the back side of the house, as that was the only part of the building that was open. The inability to move the roof or the other 3 walls out of the way made the decorating process feel very cramped, especially since the houses were small and a lot of the items were quite large in comparison. That said, in the trailer it looks like the houses may eventually be expandable to have more rooms, which would definitely make it easier to use all the cute items. And man, there were a lot of cute items. Also, when you no longer want to use an item, you can literally just yeet it off the side of the island to return it to your inventory, which was really rather fun. Twinkleby is currently set to release sometime in 2025. Bubblegum Galaxy is a game that's been on my wishlist since it was first showcased in a Wholesome Direct a couple of years ago, and honestly it had been so long that I couldn't remember what it was supposed to be about. Thankfully, the demo changed that. In Bubblegum Galaxy, you're working as an intern in an office that designs new planets for the galaxy. Early into your first day, the galaxy gets deleted somehow, leading you to have to work towards rebuilding it. The main gameplay loop is a hexagonal city builder, sort of like Romantic, but in 2D pixel art. You match tiles based on colors and what types of structures are on the tiles, and the more matching tiles that touch each other, the better. It's very low stress, and I can definitely see it becoming addictive. On top of that, the office environment is in low poly 3D, and you can wander around in it, meeting your coworkers or taking on other tasks. The NPCs are cute and intriguing, and I really liked how your viewpoint in the game completely shifts between the 3D IRL perspective in the office and the 2D I'm working on the computer right now perspective when building the galaxy. It's a nice way to switch things up and keep the gameplay feeling fresh. I really enjoyed playing the demo, and I'm very curious to see where this one goes. Bubblegum Galaxy is set to release sometime in 2025. I have My Card is Better Than Your Card set aside as an honorable mention because I unfortunately only got to play the tutorial. The game is a roguelike deck builder where you build your cards yourself using stickers. The art was cute and the tutorial was fun, but unfortunately my graphics card wasn't quite up to the task. I ended up with lines of jumbled up pixels up on the top chunk of my screen, which I didn't fully notice until I was already in the tutorial, where I discovered that the messed up pixels were blocking a lot of the information I needed to know to play the game. I got through the tutorial and restarted the demo just in case, but unfortunately the problem wasn't fixed. It was a real bummer too, as I had a lot of fun learning how the card battles work. So unfortunately I can't say much about My Card is Better Than Your Card other than it seems pretty cute and fun. On the upside, as it's currently only listed as coming soon, there's a high chance that I'll have a new PC in time for its to be released. So there you have it. There's all the demos I managed to power through for the summer 2025 edition of Steam Next Fest. Did you play any of these demos, and if so, what are your thoughts? Did I miss any gems that you think I should check out? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks once again for your patience in dealing with my incredibly slow video making. I promise I have not in any way abandoned this channel, I'm just very slow. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.